started. This is Crafting Dark Fiction from Our Own Experiences. It's about 20-minute workshop. And this is solely for interest for those of you who are going to be submitting to the DILIM anthology of dark fiction expected in October 2027. And you can get to the slides themselves using workshopslides.wordpress.com. So a bit of setup. Everyone's welcome to this, and I'll be recording to see if you didn't attend, you can access the recording. Use the chat for questions if you have any questions. Cameras are optional, and we are here to support your writing journey. And again, this is a workshopslides.dilimpress.com. You can get to the slides from there. Excuse me. All right. So a little bit about us. We're going to be doing technical support and design, distribution, marketing, and communications. If you haven't yet followed us, please do at dilim.press on Instagram. And we are based in the United States and Philippines. And we can take a quick look at mission, vision, and values for the site. You can look at the website. Here's our mission. Our true vision is to build a home for speculative fiction from across the islands and beyond. And thanks to everyone who has given feedback on these mission, vision, and values. And our work, Galíán Dreaming, will be coming out October 1st, as mentioned. So this is an overview of what we'll cover. Part 1, your story matters. Part 2, some elements of dark fiction. Part 3, our diaspora experience. Part 4, folklore as a framework. And Part 5, practical techniques. And again, you can drop in, use the workshop slides.dilimpress.com to follow along, and we'll just go right through it. Well, part 1, who are you? Your story is unique and you matter. I've linked here an author packet, which you can use for your own purposes. You'll be able to use this throughout your writing career. You can put together a photo, your author name, any links you have. Almost everyone asks for a 100-word bio. Feel free to put a video of yourself. We've been doing some with sunglasses just for fun. And here are some sample talking points that if you do file and then duplicate, make a copy, you can start to put your own information here. And as we do blog posts on emerging writers, you'll have all of your materials ready. So use this template to connect your work with the greater community. Writing is very lonely, but publishing is very collaborative. So have these items ready and you'll be ready to jump right in. For your story itself, as we're going through the workshop, an idea is to think about one fear, so something childhood or cultural or traumatic, and one place. So from your experience, it could be your home, your work, where you lived, where you visited. Here's some examples on the side. Moving on to elements of dark fiction. So when we talk about dark fiction, these are like magical realism. We're talking about horror and mystery. We have a wonderful accepted submission that's going to be coming into the anthology about horror and mystery. You can have dark fantasy or gothic Filipino noir. You can have literary works. So essentially all of this is an umbrella. And they encourage exploration of discomfort, unease, and the uncanny. Things like fear and dismay. These are all very common dark fiction ideas. So a few of the 4 different types of fictional items. So external versus internal. We can do explicit versus more atmospheric. We can do supernatural versus more like ghosts and demons, or versus grounded reality. Or we could do a singular theme as well as a multi-layered integration of themes. All of these are valid. Here are some elements, and I've also linked here a template for you to use as you're building your story. Is you build it in here, it will have all of the items that you'll need, including When you select inside Google Docs, you can get a word counter. So there's a fiction template and a poetry template. Identify the emotions. Consider the moderation instead of explicit. Specify your details. Very important to specify. Hold the tension throughout your site. It's very interesting when you hold tension. And continue to build the atmosphere. This can build over all of your work. Finally, focus on your theme. Do take this slide and keep it in your mind as you're working on your project. Here's some sample emotions on the left and some possibilities for you to think of. Here's some moderation ideas on the left. Notice we've struck some items. And then also some potential possibilities. All of these are just ideas. I don't expect stories like this. I expect you to come up with your own ideas. Here's some samples. We love the details. You know, Manila is good. Binondo is good. Calle de Principe is very good. East Coast is good. Hackensack Avenue is good. Paramus, New Jersey, all of that is very, very good. Tension. So, you know, pacing and tension are part of your method of bringing the reader along. So determine if you're going to be slow or fast, if the tempo is moving for you. You're the one who is in control. Also, I encourage you to think about mapping out the different moments in your story and identifying tropes. When we build atmosphere, we talk about the scene. For example, if you're watching it as a film or hearing it as a music, what is the overall theme that you're thinking? You can build that atmosphere through smells and tastes, colors, even sensations. And finally, what is that theme that you're attempting to explore in your story? All right, so let's move into using our experience as a diaspora and also as native Filipinos. So if you experience any of these, then you have writing material. Where are you from is a very big one for me, as I was asked this continually for most of my life living in South Florida. When we moved to California, there were more Pinoys, so I felt more comfortable. Here are some themes for us to discover together: belonging and displacement, memory and forgetting, generational trauma, intergenerational trauma, right? Something that Lolo or 2 or 3 generations back is still impacting today and even into the future. Code switching, the transformational aspect of that. Return and recognition, coming home. Finally, fear of assimilation. What does that feel like? You know, humans can become monsters, but monsters can also be human. So here's some ideas about belonging and displacement. Here are some ideas about memory and forgetting. For example, if you forget a word, can the actual item disappear? Trauma. How do we deal with trauma? How do we deal with haunting? How do we deal with the past? And how do we carry or set down trauma? I think this is the most interesting for all of us to explore, is this idea of transformation, right? People transmogrify, they change their face, they change their appearance, they are overnight, they change. These are all different allegories for transformation. Cool. Recognition. So, you know, when you leave and then come back, the border is important. What happens on either side of the border? What are ways that you can recognize patterns? What are ways that the exterior world impacts the interior, you know, going out and coming back? And then assimilation horror. This one is also very interesting. You know, we have a lot of body horror or changing your face, changing your skin, changing your eyes, changing what you wear, changing your house, moving, all of these, and also how the external world impacts the interior world. Okay, we are halfway through. So now we're going to move into folklore as a framework for your work. So consider we have a shared way to deal with folklore in that we can all have the same mythology. So I've linked here to Philippine mythology. And in this case, lore gives us a standard cultural language, but it also can give us built-in atmosphere. It can give us meanings that are very symbolic. Oftentimes, because we have similar folklore, it's a sense of belonging and identity. And also, it's in language. You don't need to explain it. We already know. Here's some examples of folklore creatures. They're just like us. All right, and we'll move into your practical techniques as you're preparing to put all of these items together. So your first line is your hook, and that's the first line that brings your reader in. So make it quite distinctive as much as you can. Start in the middle of the action if you can. Sensory details, feel, taste, touch, smell, and sense. All of these are helpful to the reader to really believe where they're at. And you can use Filipino cultural traditions. Everybody knows a certain smell or a certain feel or the sound. Your characters, I know you have a lot of empathy for your characters. Write about who you know. I write about my family often. And then finally, endings. What is the end? Just like you have a good beginning, what's at the ending? And consider too, you might have a hook to your next story. So imagine if you have an ending, could you leave a little bit of extra so you can move into the next story? Here's some examples of types of endings. And then here's a revisions checklist. Again, we expect the best work you can produce. However, we will be working with editors. Take a look at these items to identify what, if anything, you want to revise. Also, some examples of what to avoid. Finally, moving into submissions. So your story is unique and you are the only one with that perspective. I encourage you to not wait for permission. You don't have to wait for the perfect story. Please do submit, even if you're scared. When we read through many of the submissions, everybody's at a different level, and that's part of the beauty of it. Also, the subject matter is very different depending on the interest. So, we have lots of options here. Submit if you're scared, even if you're scared, especially if you're scared, because the world is waiting for your work. So thank you so much for your interest. We are going to start doing writing sprints. So this is dedicated time to focus on writing alone. And then we'll be using this workshop time, about 30 minutes, for review of your story, should you wish, with your peers. And this is going to be writing sprints on the first Mondays in Eastern United States and first Tuesday mornings. So again, starting in May, we have a Discord that will start. And then for the workshops themselves, we'll have them on the fourth Monday. So first we'll have the workshop, then we'll be able to write the next week. Go and create something beautiful. Use the code DILIM when you submit, and that will help take care of the fee. It's open submissions, so we try every month to winnow some of the submissions and present you with a contributor agreement for the anthology. And then here is just a brainstorm activity that I'll leave on screen if you should wish. We have some ideas, some themes, and you can start with your hooky first line and come up with a character. So this is just a 5-minute activity that I'll put on the board. You can choose a theme from the 6 that we suggested. And you can also choose a character, for example, any of those supernatural creatures. And you can put those together into something of your choice. Add the sensory